Hmm. There we go. We're on. Lights, camera, action, and me. 2024, but it's 2023 right now, but I'm going to discuss 2024. I had a part one to this video, which is the eclipses for 2024. I actually just got done recording that. So now that I've got the charts in front of me, I'm going to take us down the, I'm sorry, my hair is doing really weird things. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Anyhow, so, in the winter, well, depending upon where you live, like the heat is on and the windows are closed. And so it can get really dry and shit starts getting really crazy. Anyway, I'm just trying to figure out why objects are moving on my head. So let's get the chart up here before I babble any further. This is the eclipse, the first eclipse of 2024. And it happens March 25th. And it is going to be a lunar eclipse. And it's in Libra. So a Libra lunar eclipse. Now, the lunar eclipse piece of it means it's the moon. Full moon, specifically. Full moon. So do you know what the full moons mean? Like, how do we talk about full moons whenever we do these astrology videos? What do we say with full moons? We say it's a completion of a cycle. It's an ending. And it feels many times like a release. We're letting something go, right? So just pretend, as an example, a quick, simple, yeah. I'm reading a book. I finally get to the very last chapter. And then I'm on the last page. And I'm like, okay, holy crap. That was good. Or maybe not good, whatever. Disappointment even. Whatever the feeling is, there's some sort of an emotion involved. You have an emotion. And you typically, after you're done with that book, you put it down. You don't pick it back up and go read it tomorrow. You might put it away and be like, I might read that again someday, but you're done with it. Some people even pass it off and give it away. They recommend it to somebody else and they take it back to the library maybe because they finished reading it, right? Yeah. Or some literally, pay it forward. Say, hey, have you ever read this book? It's really good. You should read it. And so they give it away. They release it. And so full moons releases, endings, closure, right? The ending of a cycle. And it's very natural. It shouldn't feel like a shock, I don't think. Although there are times, depending upon other things. I know one time I did a video and a lady commented below and she was like, I had this horrible accident that day. And it was a full moon day, right? In particular, right? And so she was watching the video and it was like one of those retrospective things. And she was just like, I had this horrible automobile accident. She ended up being okay. She got, the bumps and bruises and all that, but she, the car didn't do great, but she came out walking and talking and functioning. So likely I didn't have her chart. She didn't ask me to look at her chart, right? But likely, very likely, there would have been some other objects in her chart that created that sort of a jarring, tragic event. The full moon, whenever we talk about anything lunar, we got to think emotions. We already said that. But we got to think home, feeling, and family, and mom, and nurturing, and we think of the past. So we think of childhood, but even quite possibly, it's like that tribe energy where you are, just looking for like where I belong. You know how you can go to a place and you're like, oh no, this isn't working for me. I don't fit in here. This doesn't feel like home, or I'm homesick, right? A pining for the past type of thing. But some people are just, I don't know. I think some people say things like, well, you just haven't found that place, and if you go around or travel or you just haven't met that person, whatever it is. And then when you meet them or you go there or you find this place or this group of people, possibly even like friends who feel like family, or you come along and you're just all of a sudden within this community, strong feminine energy, by the way, nurturing and mom, big deal, right? And there's something there where there's a familiarity and you feel this emotional satisfaction, emotional security, even. And we can get that, whether it's through objects, right? You can get it through objects and things. You can get it through people, literally. It just depends on who you are. And that depends on your chart. So we think of the full moon when you hear someone say lunar eclipse, just think full moon. So that's that piece of it. And then we got to understand the sign that it's in, which is in the sign of Libra, Libra energy. So this is March 25th. By the way, if I didn't add this piece to it, I will now. It is a south node lunar eclipse. And so I will talk about that as well. The south node lunar eclipse. South node, let's back up. I just jumped off of the sign of Libra. Most of you know what Libra means. It's relationships. We're like, oh, yeah, that's seventh house. That's marriage. That's partnership. It is. It is. Remember diplomacy. Remember businesses, business partnerships. Remember law. Remember scales of justice. Remember lawyers. Don't forget those. Okay. Because those are going to, on a large scale in our world, we can see how a lot of shit's going south. And the nodes, south node, right? The nodes, these are things that are connected to the past. It's kind of like this, it's got fate involved with it. So typically when those sort of events occur, you don't really have a whole lot of your own willpower to be able to stop it. It's like that big snowball rolling down the hill. With every step, with every inch, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And who are you to stand in front of it and stop it? Like that's the ball of fate rolling down that hill or up the hill or whatever, right? But it gets bigger and bigger and there's momentum behind it. There's power behind it. It's like the moons and the oceans. Can you get into the ocean and be like, well, the tides are going that way? Well, I'm a really strong swimmer. So because I'm a really strong swimmer, I know I can swim against that tide and I can force it. I can beat it. I can make the shoreline over there, even though it's taking me and carrying me that way. No, you can't. Who the hell are you fooling? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the forces of nature. It's the natural forces of the universe, the nodes. Okay. The moon. Anytime you hear me talk about the nodes, think moon energy. So this eclipse has so much strong feminine energy attached to it. Now, that doesn't mean you're looking at females in your life and you're like, oh yeah, them. It's not about that. It's feminine energy. And feminine energy, typically, moon, family, home, emotions. Okay. But also nurturing is a big deal. And physical homes, as in literally where I live, the sticks and the bricks. Or maybe I don't live in a stick and a brick anymore. Maybe I'm laying on the pavement with a cardboard box. The moon, the full moon, this lunar eclipse, and the fact that it's a south node. So forces of nature that we observe them, we feel them, feelings and emotions. The moon, the moon's nodes, the lunar eclipse, feelings and emotions. Now, it's in the sign of Libra. So Libran energy tends to be balanced. It tends to be the diplomat. It wants things that are going to be equal and fair. So whoever the underdog is, right? Or who has been, I will say, whoever the underdog was, because it's the south node. The south node is also, that fate of hand stepping in has to do with the past. So there's something here about a release and a let go. And it could be a great fall for some. Absolutely can be, because we think of people who are diplomats. We think of people, matter of fact, I'm recording this video and I think Henry Kissinger just recently died, literally like yesterday or something, right? And so somebody who was known, right? Known in the political realm for foreign affairs. And there's a lot of strong feelings about him. And this video isn't for that. It's just to understand the astrology and the connections, because when we have eclipses, and we have something in our chart that matches the degree, it can show up in our world at the minimum 6 months in advance. Some people have a lot of things, right? So the more things you have at a point, the more compound that energy is, the greater the orb of that energy expands. And so we will feel things earlier. So some people feel it even before 6 months, maybe it's 6 months to a year in advance. That cycle, that lunar cycle, they were feeling the changes happening and occurring. Whether it was physically, but maybe mentally and emotionally, they were like, they could feel it in their mind. How people will comment and they'll be like, I can already feel the shift. They just feel it. It's not, they can't pinpoint something and see, I know it because look at that, look at that. That is this moved here or this change. It's not even that. It's like they can feel a shift. They see the shift in the way they think, right? In their emotions. So 6 to 12 months in advance is possible for some folks. So Libran energy, justice, the judicial system, and boy, did people feel very strongly that that man that I just mentioned, that they were they had wished, they were saddened that the man died, and yet justice was never um justice never really had a say. And I believe he was 100 years old. 100, he lived to be 100. So So we think Libra and we think things being fair and balanced. We think relationships and marriages, even, but business partnerships. At this time of this recording, I've a lot of folks reaching out recently, a lot of folks reaching out who are Libra ascendants, Libras on the rising. A lot of those people reaching out at this time. And it makes sense. They likely, once I deep dive into their charts, once I do that, they'll likely have some objects that are being affected by this Libra eclipse, because we are already, we're into the 6 months before, without a doubt, right? I'm recording in November, the very butt end of November. And so that's easily 5 months in advance, right? So these folks are somehow being already affected. They're already feeling it. And for some people, it could be an end of a relationship. It can be a business partnership. And so when I say a business partnership, we don't always have to be like, um, it doesn't have, I think sometimes we might think it means, well, I own 50% shares of that company. My partner owns 50%. It doesn't always have to be like that. It can look a whole lot of different ways in your life. It absolutely can. It can simply be, if you do, if you're a consultant and you do one-on-ones with people, it could just be a certain cycle is ending, right? A certain type of person doesn't consult you or have your needs, doesn't need what you offer any longer, right? It can be that. But it can be for the job at whatever job it is that you do. If it falls within the Libra category, what's Libra? Well, it wants equality, but because it's Venus ruled, aha, that takes us to what? That takes us to the ruler of this eclipse, Venus. So we then got to unpack the keywords for Venus, which is what I'm doing right here in my mind right now. I'm saying, okay, we know about equality. We know the scales of justice. We know the courtroom. We know lawyers. We know the law, right? And we think of the ultimate diplomats, right? And how people who are in politics, who deal with foreign affairs, or whatever, have that diplomatic face, that diplomatic front even. They have to be able to understand how diplomacy works, which means they're understanding the bigger picture, right? And so they may say certain things at certain times to smooth out the rough edges and to meet somewhere in the middle, because it's about, I can talk to this side and to this side, and I could be right here in the middle and hear both sides out and somehow bring these two opposing polar ends to figure out a way where we can meet here without killing each other. And that's the ultimate diplomat. So Venus being the ruler now, Venus wants fairness and equality. It is strong feminine energy, so there could be prominent female justices, because we think of in the courtroom. We did say lawyers, but your justices were lawyers at one time. And oddly enough, yeah, I don't know, justices just came in really strongly right there. But we think of Venus wants harmony and peace. That's her goal. And that's why the whole diplomacy thing is so important with Venus. And that's why she does a great job. If you've ever heard people talk who have like this very strong Venus quality about them, you'll recognize it in their speech. Now, I got it. Mercury has a lot to do with that too, but pay attention to their Venus, because if when their words come out, if they sound not like a snake, we know, where they're trying to sell you some snake oil type of thing, or they're trying to trick you, but they're really more concerned about etiquette and things being proper and smooth, but not smooth to be tricky, but smooth is to be, I don't want it to be jarring. I don't want to offend anyone. I want to be politically correct. You follow? And that's because of Venus in Libra. I want to be politically correct. I don't want to say things that 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 just bring the opposite of harmony, that bring the opposite of peace to somebody. And that's a real thing. I know people make fun of that. People I hear people all the time making fun of, or longing for the olden days when it was okay to say certain things, and it was just like, so you cherish those moments, those long lost moments. But what about the folks who were literally being held down and pushed back, or the doors were closed on them, and where injustices were too strong of a way of life for them? They don't miss those times. Right? Yeah, they don't miss those times. Hell no, they don't want those times back. And so when I hear people say that, I'm often like, wow, like you weren't able to even put yourself in someone else's shoes and to think, what and how would your life have been had you been that person at that time living? How do you think you would have felt? How do you think you would have made it and lived and persevered, right? Um, Venus is the opposite of those inequalities. She's the opposite of all that harsh, just raunchy kind of, I don't give a shit what you think. I'm going to say what I say. I'm blunt. Venus and Mercury are sisters, and Mercury can be blunt because it's very quick to speak, and it's just kind of like a straight shooter in its words. And so if it not if Venus isn't prominent enough to help it stay measured in its choice, in its words, it can get caught up in a tricky spot. I think Archie Bunker. Yeah, hilarious, right? But super offensive when he was talking. Um, but Venus is the opposite of that. She's always thinking, okay, like if I say it this way, how will this come off? Will this offend anybody? And I understand there's varying degrees of how to even keep that in check and in balance, because nobody's perfect. I get it. But we think of Venus because Venus rules this this south node eclipse. All right. So I've been talking for 20 minutes. Let's take a look at this chart. And there she is, Venus, the ruler of this eclipse, and the south node, the fated south node. Big deal. Yep. Because this is the release in relationships. Okay. The eclipse is right there. It happens at 5:07, and whatever node is closest to the event, that's how we know it's a south node eclipse. And it's lunar because it's the full moon in Libra. And what makes a full moon? When the sun and the moon are at opposite ends of each other. I should be able to go to the opposite ends of Libra, and the sun should be there at these exact degrees and exact minutes. Let's do that. There it is. There's the sun in Aries at 5 degrees and 7 minutes. Yep, that's the symbol for the sun, a circle with a dot in the middle. Looking at this now, seeing the eclipse, the full moon in Libra, and Venus being the ruler of it, and the south node having a say because it's a south node eclipse, we already understand a whole lot about this eclipse just from the conversation that we just had for 20 minutes, me talking, yapping my mouth off, right? We understand it's a release and a let go. There might be something within the law even. It's a possibility. The scales of justice, the courtroom even, lawyer energy, lawyers, possibly justices, possibly. Feminine energy is strong. So is it possible that literally females in some way could be a thing, it's possible because so much is about feminine energy here. You follow? Venus ruling this eclipse. South node, moon is prevalent because it's the south node. The moon, it's the moon's node. That's the full word for that. That is the moon's south node. You follow? Right. And it's a full moon eclipse. Now, we're going to look at a few other things real quick. Well, actually, before we go over there, I want you to take a look at where this is located in this chart. And the only reason I'm going over this is so that you can look at it and find it in your chart. So in this chart, the 5 degrees and 7 minutes in Libra is located in the first house in this chart. That will only be in this chart. Your chart will only be the same if you have an identical chart, which means you happen to have your birth chart already made up. You've got your birth time and location, and you happen to be Virgo on the ascendant at 3 degrees and 12 minutes. Because then that means your chart would look identical to this one. Okay. So that's the only way that I know where this moon is, and that's for this chart, where this eclipse happens in the first house. So in this chart, 5 degrees and 7 minutes is in the first house because I know the second house doesn't begin until 18 degrees and 28 minutes. So anything under 1828 is in the first house. You see? Knowing the house that it's in tells you the where this happens in your life. And so knowing what the first house means then tells you gives you more details. First house is the body, my appearance. It could be my clothing, could have something to do with my head. Could have to do with the actions of my body, could have to do with the location of your body. Because it's Venus, Venus wants things to be balanced. She likes beauty. She wants things to be equal and fair and, the whole relationship thing, the whole harmony. And we think of, how do I compromise? Big deal there. How do I compromise? But not compromising to the degree where I don't exist. I didn't say sacrifice. I said compromise. And Venus has a hard time sometimes because the higher octave of Venus is Neptune. So for many people with strong Venus energy, it can go to two extremes usually. Well, there's a lot of grays in between, of course, but it can go to some extremes. The one would be Neptune, which is sacrifice. The opposite would be it goes to the Aries energy, where it becomes all about me, where it becomes we will do what I say when I say we're going to do it. It becomes very forceful, very controlling. You see, Pisces, the opposite, the higher octave of Venus, Pisces is more about surrender and understanding, kumbaya and unity and oneness. And it will, that's why Venus can get caught. Libra can get caught sometimes and be like, oh, I can't make up my mind. I'm on the fence, right? Because she sees both sides and it's like, you're going to make me choose? And that's hard to do. She surrenders to both sides at times, right? So it's difficult. It can be tricky. So the first house, that was just an example. Find out in your chart where this where this lunar eclipse release, south node, fated, partnerships, relationships, business, can be marriage, can be love. Where does this release happen? This can be insurances. This can be a big like corporations. I wanted to say incorporations, my language. Corporations money, right? We think of that because it's bonded energy. But where's Venus? That's what I wanted to get to. Venus. Because Venus rules this eclipse, we have to find Venus. And she's in Pisces at this time. Can you believe that shit? So the ability to kind of go to the higher level of Neptune, because, well, Neptune actually rules Pisces. Yeah, Neptune's here at 2739. Venus is in Pisces at this time. So remember, it's about sacrifice. But that's not all. There's a whole lot of other sacrifice and surrender, but those are the virtues, right? Pisces, every sign has vices. things that aren't so glamorous, right? Things that aren't so wonderful or positive, right? But illusions, delusions, and glamour are definitely Pisces, not so virtuous keywords, right? Where we can get fooled, where we are fooling ourselves, where we're looking through a rose colored glasses and we're not seeing things clearly. Like there's fog and murkiness around and things get fuzzy. And at this time, whenever you have Venus in Pisces, remember Venus wants love and balance and harmony in relationships, but she's all about my desires. So wherever you see Venus, you're like, okay, so what are my desires right now? Well, the desires for Venus are whatever sign she's in. And here she is in Pisces. And Pisces wants unity. It also likes Hollywood and theater. And it likes dreams and fantasy. That is Pisces, fantasy and dreams and make believe. Really good to use for creative energy. It is also sleep because it's dreams. We might get visuals. We might have really, some people might have some really profound dreams at this time, but not so much profound as in like what I would call a telling dream. To me, the telling dreams are very pronounced and sharp in contrast. They're almost disturbing to a degree where you wake up and you're like, you don't know the difference between reality and dream state. It was so real and crisp and lucid. She is a little bit more like, let's just go to Calgon, take me away, light the candles, let's chill, let's get under the blankets, let's grab a book, let's just like escape. So we think substances with Venus, desire, in Pisces, substances. So whatever your poison is, Venus and her substances and what her desire is, what her thirst is for. I say thirst because Pisces in the water, Jesus in the wine, Jupiter, everyone knows Jupiter, wine. Yeah. And I don't mean like be quiet wine. I mean like I'll take another glass wine, right? That kind of wine. So that's where Venus will be, and she is sitting at 16 degrees. And what's interesting about this eclipse at this exact time is Vertex is part of the eclipse. It's within, she's part of the Venus action. Venus is at 16, Vertex is at 18. So the desire may be connected to an event. Now, remember, Pisces is also, it can be people who are public figures, people that are known public figures. So that covers the whole skew, right? That covers the whole rainbow of musicians, of actors, actresses, people of the cloth, people who maybe have a lot of followers on different socials, public figures. Public figures. It covers the whole blanket. Because Vertex is there and Venus is there, maybe we're hearing about, I don't know, Venus can be the woman in someone's life, someone getting, making a love connection even. But remember, it can be a little on the delusional and fantastical side because it's in Pisces. We always have to wait for it to get a little bit more on solid ground. But I will say that Venus passed over Saturn, and Saturn is quite serious, and Saturn is quite sobering in Pisces energy. So that's a plus. So if there's anybody thinking about, making a commitment and long-term stuff, that's Saturn for sure. And Vertex can be a person, a place, a thing, but it is very faded energy is Vertex. It moves very fast as well, that point. So this might be a thing for some folks. Look to see not necessarily where your Vertex is, but see, you can check that, but see if you have anything at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 degrees. Because let me move this Venus out of the way a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. Underneath the Venus hiding there in black is Nessa. Nessa usually kind of puts a monkey wrench into things. I'm going to draw the N for Nessus. It's called Nessus. I called her Nessa. Nessus. Nessus tends to, it's known as a person who is seeking revenge. So this can be tricky. This can be kind of sort of tricky. So again, because Venus is desires, because Venus can also be your bank account and your love and what you're buying and purchasing, but what you desire, you're just being cautious at this time. right? Don't make any quick, fast judgments, or I'm sorry, any quick, fast purchases. Make sure you're checking things out before you do anything like that, because we're all under the spell of Venus in Pisces for a little bit more time. And because Vertex is involved and Nessus may be a deceiver. It might be somebody who's putting on a Piscean, the actor in the costume face, and possibly Nessus might be there in the hiding as an event. Or, you know how many times things happen where like, but look how it lined up. It just lined up, so it's meant to be, right? I know I can raise my hand. Oh, but the Hawks came and sat on the fence. It's a signal. It's a sign, right? The teaching is multiple things have to happen, not just one. You have to have multiple symbols from the universe to get to take those cues and to be like, okay, I am getting all the signposts along the way. They are kind of guiding me in this direction that I'm on the right track. Not just a one and done thing, folks. When you hear one and done, you might want to walk away from it. Okay. So just keep that in mind for this particular day and at this time, because Vertex moves really fast. Nessus does not move fast though. So Venus and Nessus together, okay, and will be for about 5 days after this, all right, because Venus moves faster. The other thing I wanted to point out is that because this eclipse is at 15, I'm sorry, the eclipse itself is at 5 degrees, but the node is at 15. The node itself is at 15. So opposite is Aries, north node. So this is the south node. This, which means we have what? You see my arrow down here at 15 degrees on Vega? Yeah, I've got it there for a reason, because it's 15 degrees in Vega and it's cardinal. It's cardinal energy. Okay? It's long term. This can be your goals, your ambitions, your work even, something you've been working on for a long time, or something you plan on working, something that is part of your future because you're working towards it. It's responsibilities and duties. We're very serious when we talk about our Capricorn energy. It can be public figures. It can be usually people within the government or even institutions within the society. We think Saturn, we think restrictions and rules and duty, right? It teaches us how to be responsible, how to have some self-discipline, how to work hard for something and to get the rewards. That's Capricorn energy. Vega and Sirius are here. Sirius is the food. It can be feminine energy, some associated to Virgo energy even. But the food and the earth and nurturing, possibly, you think of the earth, how can you not think of animals and the vegetation and the water? You think of the earth as a whole. You don't divide it apart and split it up. It works as a whole. That's how it was created. It's how it has evolved. And Vega at 15, meaning cardinal energy, it squares the nodes. So this is not quick because the nodes are not fast movers. And we were already in this. This wasn't like because of the eclipse. It spoke to me. I'm just going to keep it real. I kept hearing, go look at Vega, go look at Vega. But here we are looking at Vega. And when I took the deeper dive, guess what I found out? I found out that Vega is moving direct here, but she was retrograde for quite a while in 2023. Well, Vega started going direct in December of 2023. On December 22nd, Vega went direct. Now, why does that matter? Well, because when a planet is retrograding, it's stronger. We feel its power a little bit more. Its keywords are more pronounced. So now that Vega's not going direct any longer, remember December 22nd of 2023 until and including this day, the keywords for Vega are less obvious, meaning if you've got a stock on the stove, it's almost like we put some fennel in there and then we took it out. We took some spices in and then we took them out and they're no longer there. There's just a hint of them left, but they're not there any longer, right? When something is retrograding, it's like when someone has put the black peppercorn into the pot and as you're eating, you're actually tasting the black peppercorn, like there's a piece of it in your mouth. Holy shit, it's really obvious, right? That's like a retrograde thing. It's really strong. It's really obvious. You just know it's there. There's no question about it. So what does Vega mean? about as a very fortunate star. Vega, a very fortunate star. In Capricorn, that means within your long-term goals and ambitions. Vega, very slow mover. 15 degrees in many of our charts, in many of our birth charts. Very slow mover. This is the chief star of the constellation Lyra, Lyra. It's a very fortunate star. It's about manifesting harmony. It has artistic talents. What are you noticing so far? Those words. Very fortunate, manifesting harmony, artistic talents, a very kindly nature. Very similar to Venus. A lot of these keywords, harmony, artistic, these are all Venus keywords, folks, right? There is an eye for detail with Vega, an eye for detail and an eye for keeping things balanced. Balanced. Caution, avoid self-indulgence. Venus, right? So it's like Vega is almost, I don't know if I should call her a sister of Venus. I don't know. Or Venus's aunt, maybe even. I'm not sure. I'm kind of, yeah, like I'm just feeling though Vega is strong Venus energy. And it says to keep an even approach. That's the cautions. Be cautious of avoiding the going overboard with self-indulgences and keep an even approach. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because Vega is no longer retrograding. So we're not feeling likely her ability to create balance and to keep an even approach. Okay. And it's now in a very tight T square with the north and the south nodes in Libra and Aries. And it's not just on this day. You guys were already feeling it. I was already feeling it. We were already in it. But it's just it's another detail, Vega. It's another detail of this eclipse. So paying attention in your world, in your chart, where is your Libra energy? What house is it in? And those degrees, specifically 5 to 15 degrees. Where is your Capricorn energy? 14, 15 degrees. Where is your Aries energy? 5 to 15 degrees. And I'm saying 5 because the eclipse happens at both ends. Even though we're having an eclipse in Libra, we always talk about the opposite sign in the eclipse, which is Aries, which is my physical body, which is my freedoms of my body, which is my appearance. And I kind of already touched on it, and it's the head, because that Libra happened to be in the first house. So I was already talking about Aries keywords, but it's action and the actions of my body. I didn't talk about that. Your appearance, your location of your body, how it looks literally. So this can include not just our clothing, but our skin color. Or for some of us, it might not be about skin color like me. If people were to see me walking, they see me walking with a limp. Well, that limp is part of my appearance, right? If I had a cane or whatever, if I was in a wheelchair, or not me, anybody else, you look at them and they look a certain way. Oh, they're handicapped. Oh, they're crippled. Oh, they're this. Oh, they're that. Oh, they got a broken foot. Oh, they got a broken arm, right? There's certain things about that becomes an accessory to their appearance. Okay. And so all these things play a part in this. All these things have a say in this. So again, reiterate real quickly here. We're understanding that Venus is in Pisces at this time. And that's important because Venus rules this eclipse. It's feminine energy and it's balance and it's partnerships. It's important relationships, not just any old relationships, but significant one-on-one relationships. So I hope this has helped. You got any questions? Comment below, and likely we'll do a part 2 on this one. If you guys have questions, I'll create a video including your questions. So please put your comments down below so I can create a video and I can pull up your specific questions. Put your name on there, the name that you asked them under, and answer your questions for you directly in the video. Until next time, take care. So below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.